Hey, welcome back to Intentional Queen Podcast, where women come to be empowered on their self love, self healing, and growth mindset journey. I am Janine. I am the host and a certified life coach. And so let's talk about some things. It's been a while. We in November. And when you listen to this, it's going to be Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all my listeners out there. I hope you are spending good time with your family and just really soaking in this time. COVID was a blink year. So it was like, boop. And now people are able to spend time with their family. So I hope that's what you're doing on this day, because I surely will be on Thanksgiving as well. So let's go over some things. I got a couple announcements and then we're going to jump into this thing. The Patreon community is up and running. You guys have been signing up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's the cost of a coffee to hang out with us and create community for you. So thank you for my new members. And if you're wondering how to do it, you just go to Patreon, patreon.com. It's also on my website at intentionalqueenjourney.com. As soon as you pull it up, you will see a flyer that you can click, and that will allow you to sign up to the Patreon. We got a lot of things loaded over there and more to come. Second announcement is the vision board party. Whoop, whoop. So, we in this last quarter, right? So we'll have one more month and then we in 2023. Have you begun to think about what you're going to manifest for your next year? What's that looking like for you? Like, this is the time to start planning out here in these streets. So with that, my tribe asked me to put a party together because I'm always talking about giraffe vision, right? So it's only right that, Janine had to put a little party. So I call it a party, but more it's a get together where I'm going to do it virtual. It's going to be like I do all the other events. You just sign in with the link that I sent you through the email, and it'll be on December 3rd, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want you to start getting your supplies ready. Are you a virtual girl or are you arts and craft girl? For me, I'm virtual, so I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to do it virtually because I like to have mine as a screensaver. I like to have it on my phone, and then I can print it all up. So we're going to be going over that. I want you to have your favorite beverage. I want you to invite some friends. It's free. The way to sign up, like I said, is through the Intentional Queen Refuel newsletter. How do you do that? You go to the website at intentionalqueenjourney.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom, pop your name and put your email in, and that's how I'll distribute it. And I'll send you the link the day of. You just click in. I'll make sure to have a replay. And then people ask me, how can they organize their thoughts? So I've already went out and made Intentional Queen Journey Vision Board Goal Sheet. I have it free for my Patreons, but it's now for sale for $3. So you can click in and get that. All that information will be in the email as well. So if that's something you're looking for and you want to come through, then come on, because I'm going to need accountability partners as we prepare to manifest for this next year. Okay. And let's see, that last episode. Woo, y'all need to know that was a hard episode for me to put together, and it was called Plan for the Struggle. And people already reached out to me. So I kept saying in that episode it was for someone, and it definitely ended up being for somebody. And I appreciate that. And so as we move through this Thanksgiving season, and now we're going to be jumping into Christmas, I just want you guys to just really get in a space of gratitude and also just trying to create more authentic relationships. So that's really going to be my thought work today. That's really what I'm going to dig into. So if that's what you need, then stay tuned to the end. So let's get into it. How are you showing up in your relationships? How are you showing up in the world? Now, I always talk about I used to be a people pleaser and this and that. And one of the things that I really had to learn about was being authentic and being my authentic self and having healthy boundaries. So the first thing we're going to talk about when you're improving your relationships is boundaries are key. Remember, boundaries are for you. What does that mean? That means that you have to decide what is important to you. So don't get into a relationship and then things get a little dicey and then you want to implement boundaries, because that's where you get into a sticky situation. Before you get into any relationship, whether it be co-worker, family, friend, whatever, you need to establish the boundaries from within of what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept, because that'll allow you to let what flows in for you and what's not for you to flow out. Because you should build what? You should build gates instead of walls. And what that means is, and I spoke about that on one of my friends' podcasts as a guest, is gates are you allow in what's for you, okay? And in relationships, when we get tired, I'm just speaking on myself, but I do have clients who are a lot like me, so maybe that's you, boo. And it's this: I used to build walls because now you done piss me off, and now I done walled off everybody because I'm not dealing with nobody because of the foolery. Okay. And so what you find is you can end up blocking blessings because you have put a wall there instead of having healthy boundaries, which are your gates to let in what's for you and to let out what's not. Okay. That also goes back to what we've been talking about all fall season, which has been about backpack energy and letting it go. Backpack. That's a whole episode. You should go back and listen to that. And I talk about how you have to go into the power of release and how you have to stop carrying the weight of others, their opinions, their thoughts, their perspectives, whatever you're carrying. You let them carry their own backpack and you keep moving, because as a mindset coach, it's pretty much about knowing that your thoughts lead to feelings, which leads to actions, which leads to results. So what are you thinking about? Because this is how you show up in relationships. And with it being Thanksgiving, remember, you're going to be around family. It's all about gratitude, so things that you're grateful for. So that's why I'm digging more into it. We always hear in the Bible they talk about wise counsel. So wise counsel is, if you hang around fools, you probably gonna be what, a fool. And when you hang around wise folk, you tend to be more wise. But you have to recognize the people that you keep in, the company that you keep in, the relationships that you keep in, because sometimes they no longer serve you either, because they're not in the space of where you're growing. You always, like I said, want to get to a space of wanting to elevate. At some point you will hit the ceiling. And so have people in your company. They say the top 5 people is who you become like. So that's something you should really evaluate. But what I mean by that is, don't always stick around people that's on your level, because you want people who will help get you to be motivated to go a little bit more, because you'll get stagnant. And you know, I don't like that word. I don't like to be stagnant. Now, there is times where you plateau and you need to take a break. I'm not saying don't do that. But what I'm saying is, don't be stagnant and just stay stuck, because what will happen is, if you are around people that are stagnant and you're the one that's going to elevate, then at some point you're going to become stagnant because you don't want to be different. So get around people who are close to what you're doing and some that are elevating, because it'll keep you motivated. Okay. And remember, motivation is not everything. Discipline is more. And what I mean by that is, when you discipline, it's like just showing up, making a commitment to yourself. One of my business goals is I commit to 1 hour a day to my business. Another thing that I do is I have gratitude as a daily activity for me. You know, the podcast, a goal that's discipline for me is, you know, you're going to find me on a podcast every other Thursday. Come up with goals for yourself that you can commit to, that you discipline to, and make sure you feeding yourself every day with something. I got on a little tangent for that, but like, you know, that's for somebody. Remember, iron sharpens iron, and that's in Bible too. And it's like, you know, if they on the same page and they strengthening you, right? So you should be strengthening them. You don't want people that's always sucking you dry. That goes back to the capacity, where I talk about what can you hold. And sometimes we carry so much, you know what I mean, cup filled all the way up, and then you take in on other people problems and you don't even have enough room, and they may not even have enough room to carry you. So when you're having authentic relationships, respect the person, whether it's a friend or whatever. Can they hold what you need at that time? Sometimes your friend might not have that space for you. So what I'm learning to do is ask, is it okay? Can I let down with you, or do you got the space for me right now? Because sometimes they just don't have it. They don't have the capacity. And remember, it's okay, because that's them having a boundary with you. So also, when you're creating boundaries for you, remember, people are creating boundaries for themselves. So it gets to a point in authentic and healthy relationships that you respect each other's boundary. Now that's a word. One more time. That's respecting each other's boundaries. Because see, what happens is, when you have flim flam boundaries and you put a boundary there, and then the people who was offended, now they mad now, and they not going to respect the boundaries. But guess what? That's even more for you to have a boundary. And also, there is power in no. And what I mean by power in no, no is a complete sentence. Silence is still an action. No is a complete sentence, and silence is still an action. I want you to, I was coaching on this today, not today, but I was coaching on that this week. And it was grace. Having grace for yourself as you are navigating in gratitude, as you're navigating and creating healthy boundaries, as you're navigating and creating authentic relationships. And we're in Thanksgiving. And so at this point, it's just having grace for the space that you're in and being grateful for the little things, because you know, COVID, like I said, we lost a lot of people, and a lot of people really struggled when we couldn't be with our family and friends because we were all on lockdown. So just be grateful in that space. letting go of bitterness and resentfulness. What that is why you holding on to that. That's why it's called level up your intentional queen to a better you. It's no need to be bitter. You need to be better. Who is that for? Like when you become better, it's just a whole better way to function. But how do you get there? You have to have remorse. You have to soul search. You got to do that work. You got to go in there and really do the work to unpack what is causing you to feel like you need to be bitter, what is causing you to want to resent them. And a lot of times, like I said, even in my personal life, I can say like the boundary thing was part of it, and expecting people to flow. You my family, and this is the lane that we in, and they be on a different page, and you be expecting them to do you like you do them. But what you realize in the streets is that everybody got free will. And when people got free will, they do what they want to do, and you can't expect that they're going to do. And this is another thing: expect the unexpected, because having expectations on people, you will always become offended, because people cannot always function to the level of your expectations. So if you understand that you expect the unexpected, then you can have healthier relationships with people, because you don't put that weight on them and they don't put that weight on you, and you function in a space of we are where we are, and I'm going to say it is what it is. And if it's not doing well, then now you're going to be on the outside of the gate. And that's what we're doing. At some point, you just may have to create a boundary with people that you do have to interact with, if that makes any sense. Opening your heart. Now, I did an Instagram post about that. And a friend texted me and was like, how is your heart space? And I thought it was a good question, because your heart space goes back to what I was talking about with bitterness and resentfulness, and figuring out, is it clean? And that's even Bible too, keeping your heart clean, keeping it clean. And that just means keeping it open, because when we get closed off, it just really can set off a domino effect of negative things, negative thoughts, negative actions, negative feelings, all that stuff. And so I find that finding that space and healing up those wounds and digging in there and doing the work, you will find that keeping your heart open, and also being humble, being in a space of gratitude, staying humble, and forgiveness. Oh, that's the word right there, forgiveness. And sometimes it's forgiveness for you of whatever happened, and not expecting them to give you, because sometimes people be waiting for that apology, or people be waiting for people to own their role and own their position, and you might be waiting for years, or you may wait and never get it. When you can just bless it, and you can just say, I forgive you off the strength of this, and that's growth, and this is where we are. That keeps your heart open. When you can still do right by people that did you wrong, that's keeping your heart space open. Is it hard to do? Yes. But at the end of the day, if you the one that's bitter, you the one drinking poison, hoping that they're going to feel it. And that is making you suffer. That's the whole point. You don't want to suffer. And so if you don't want to suffer, then you got to keep your heart space clean. How do you do that? You continue to stay open. You continue to serve. You continue to find love, whether that be self-love, whether that be loving relationships, like whatever, like just work on staying open, and work on healing, and work on you, like really just like work on you. Always shout out Tony Gaskins on the 3 B's, and I feel like that's just key: brain, body, brand. Get your thought work together, invest in yourself, get that body snap back together, get yourself together. And then, your brand. What are you investing in? What are you working on project wise, work wise, career wise? What are you doing? When you get that right, you'll realize you start manifesting all types of things of positivity that you ain't even know. So that's something for somebody too. Just stay in a place with them 3 B's, okay? And soak in what's happening. It's okay to build as you manifesting what you want. You may not have everything yet, right? You may be nervous about what you're doing. I went to a Keon Henderson conference, and he talked about on there, step out of your comfort zone. And I didn't even notice, but maybe you did. Did you know frogs, they live and they jump in the water, but they don't drink the water, because they got the tongue, and they eat flies and stuff, but they only sit in the water because they soak up the environment. They don't drink water. I thought that was really dope because a lot of times they sit in the water to soak it in, and they take the water in through their skin. They soak it in. And I thought this was key. So in relationships and how you moving in the streets, sometimes it's about getting in the room and soaking it in, right? Being that frog, sit in there and soak it up. And so that helped me have better authentic relationships because I started stepping out of my comfort zone and going into spaces I usually wouldn't go, and then just soaking it in. And then I also heard this: if you're an introvert like me, make sure you got at least one extrovert in your circle because they'll help you step out of your comfort. Because if you always around introverts and you're an introvert, then it's really there it goes with the growth, right? And hitting the ceiling. You need a combination. You need a combination of people. So I think that's for somebody too. And remember, God can insert commas and periods in your life. So sometimes you be thinking it's the end of something, but maybe he put a comma there. You thought it was a period, but maybe he put a comma there, which means a pause. Because there's some people that's waiting on results. That's why I said we got to talk about 2023. So you might have thought that it's the end or it didn't happen yet, but maybe God put a comma there. You know what I mean? Comma. And so that's a pause. When you're reading, that's a pause. Not a complete end, it's a pause, and then they say something else, right? When you in unhealthy relationships, remember when you're grieving things, the last phase of grieving is acceptance. So when you can accept it is what it is, and you can say, you gonna be good. I'm gonna bless you over there, and I see you when I see you, and whatever it is that you're going through in these relationships that may be coming to a comma or a period, you can say, I accept where it is because that helps you evolve. And start thinking about your word of the year. We're coming to the end. I don't want this episode to go too long. So your thought work for me is going to be, how is your heart space? Come up with like 3 strategies that you can use to help you overcome it if you're troubled. What are you grateful for in this season? And what are your intentional goals for 2023? Start thinking about them, short-term and long-term goals. You know, I got the sheet, the worksheet available. You got the vision board party. That's going to be December 3rd, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You sign up through the newsletter. If you're already on the newsletter, you are already signed up, and you can just come and click in if you are available. And I'll make sure to have the replay for people because I like that. And, that's really my thoughts. Happy Thanksgiving. Make sure you stand in that place of gratitude. I'm going to put in the show notes the link to the vision board party sheet, and I'm also going to put my favorite gratitude journal there. And I did an episode last year for Thanksgiving, which was good, bad, and indifferent. And that's a really good one where I talk about vision. So you definitely can go back and check that. That'll all be in the show notes. Level up your intentional queen to a better you. I'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. Bye-bye.